Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on all things Giving Tuesday. So excited to have everyone here. We are just going to give everyone a couple minutes to go ahead and jump in. I know some might be wrapping up lunch, and so we'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to come on into this session. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, if you want to use the chat and just let us know where you're joining us from, what organization you're with, would love to see who we have with us today. So go ahead and throw that in the chat, and we will just go ahead and get started in a minute or two. Really excited to have everyone here today. Hi, Victoria. Hey, Daryl. Hi, Pat.
Loving seeing folks from all over the place. Multiple Louisianas, though.
Yeah.
Shout out to Louisiana.
Texas here. Love to see it. Hi, Brett. Awesome. Just give one more minute. Hi, Tony. Okay. Cool. Well, while everyone is jumping on, let's just go into a couple housekeeping items and then we'll do intros and then go ahead and get started on our session about Giving Tuesday, which is now, Kelsey and I were just talking, already 11 days away. So we're getting close to the single digits of things. My name is Bailey Houston from the Giving Block, and we are so excited to have you all here today on our session all about how to prepare for Giving Tuesday and some action steps to maximize your impact as we come up not only on this important day, but giving season. So we are recording this session, so we will be sending it out afterwards for anyone that maybe wants to share it with a colleague or isn't able to join. So be sure to keep an eye out for that follow-up email after this session. Additionally, we do have a good amount of time saved at the end of this for Q&A. So any questions that you might have on things that we talk about today, or just other questions about what your organization is planning for Giving Tuesday or things that you want to chat about, feel free to please use the Q&A section for that, just so we can make sure that we get to everyone's questions. I know sometimes the chat can be kind of hard to go back and navigate, so please just make sure to use the Q&A for that. So those are kind of our main two housekeeping items. So with that, I am super excited to have Kelsey Kramer with us today, who is the Director of Partnerships from Giving Tuesday, as well as Pat Duffy, who's the co-founder of the Giving Block, on this awesome session about all things Giving Tuesday. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to them to give a little introductions of themselves, and then we'll get started with the webinar. So Pat, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, thanks, Bailey.
Awesome.
So I'm Pat. I'm one of our two co-founders here at the Giving Block. We started in 2018 with only crypto donations. We've been doing that for a while now. We're on track to raise our first $250 million in crypto donations. Specifically, we do stock and DAF giving now. I know, Kelsey, you were with the Chariot team talking about the DAF side of things recently. Yeah, kick it over to Kelsey.
Awesome. I'm Kelsey. I'm the Director of Partnerships, specifically at the Giving Tuesday Data Commons. At the Data Commons, if you're not familiar, we do research and generate insights on how people give their time, their energy, their money, their advocacy, not just on Giving Tuesday, but year round. Especially around Giving Tuesday, though, we are measuring that impact. And so I get to work with many partners to help do that measurement and get that better understanding of what's going on in our sector so that we can understand what the opportunities really are. So that's me. Should we get into it?
Yeah.
All right. I think we have a poll around what types of activities folks are planning for Giving Tuesday this year. I'm also just really curious as you're taking this poll too, whether or not this is folks maybe first time doing Giving Tuesday or you've been doing it for years, kind of where you are at in your Giving Tuesday journey.
Okay. Give everyone a minute here to put in answers. And yeah, if there's anything else you're doing, or you want to say how many years you've been doing Giving Tuesday specifically, make sure to throw that in the chat.
While folks are doing that, I can do just like a little bit of level setting. I don't want to assume that every single person on this webinar is extremely familiar with Giving Tuesday, so I can give just that quick background before we really like dig into it, if that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Giving Tuesday was created in 2012 as a really simple idea. What would happen if we had a day that encouraged people around the world to do good? Over 12 years, that idea has grown into a global movement that we now all know inspires millions of people to give, collaborate, and celebrate generosity around the world. The movement has 104 official country campaigns where there are local leaders running campaigns for their country. There's Giving Tuesday France, there's Giving Tuesday UK, all over Latin America. Around the world, folks are activating. And in the US, we have over 200 community campaigns that are running campaigns for their geographic area. So places like Charlotte, North Carolina, and lots of campaigns happening in Texas. But we have those that are happening around the US and also some cause coalitions that galvanize folks around a specific cause area.
That's great.
Yeah, are we closing this poll? I want to see what people are planning for Giving Tuesday.
Let's see what the answers came in like.
Okay, good.
Yep, tons of social media, a lot of email, virtual and in person is interesting. And then matching gifts, of course. Match is super powerful, community engagement and corporate. So less on the event side and on the corporate giving, it seems like.
Interesting, interesting. This is great. I'm seeing in the chat that my volume is really low, so I'm gonna try and turn that up. This
Where's
louder?
mine too high?
No, I know. Is this louder?
mine
Can
coming through
everyone hear
loud?
me? Okay, cool. I think I'm going to talk a little bit about the opportunity for Giving Tuesday this year and some of our sort of big numbers before I turn it over to you, Pat, to talk a little bit about the opportunity with crypto. So I think it's helpful to help us sort of understand what's happening and what we can learn from Giving Tuesday to look at numbers from Giving Tuesday 2023 and some of our data from the past year around how people are activating and participating in giving. So using data from previous Giving Tuesdays 2023 online donation results, our estimate of offline giving and awareness participation surveys that we run, we estimated that the minimum total number of adult participants in the US in 2023 was as follows. So 34 million adults participated in some way, 18 million donated, 14 million gave their voice, so shared on social media, advocated, 10 million gave food, clothing, or other items, and 8 million people volunteered. Of those 18 million that gave money in the United States, we estimate that 3.1 billion of that was, or 3.1 billion was raised in financial donations. I want to call out specifically that amount of money was made up mostly of $50 to $100 donations given by average sort of everyday individuals. So we're really seeing the sort of everyday giver participate and activate around Giving Tuesday. Want to zoom out a little bit too and just look at kind of what's happening with giving year round. So Giving USA, I'm sure most of us are familiar maybe with Giving USA. They release donation totals for the year, and they estimated that in the US people gave $374 billion last year. That's, if you break it down, that's 1.52 billion per day, which means on Giving Tuesday that people are giving 2 times that, to put that into perspective and really look at the opportunities that we have. So I want to take this moment to talk a little bit about some Giving Tuesday myths. You may see these numbers and think, exactly, it's so big. How will I stand out? There's no way I can cut through the noise. But noise helps, because we know that people who know about Giving Tuesday are inspired to be more generous. We run a survey, and about 53% of those folks tell us that they are aware of Giving Tuesday. And of the people that are aware, 86% of those people report that it inspires them to be more generous and activate. And I'll talk a little bit more about why this is a good thing, but that noise, that is a good thing. It builds awareness and an opportunity for you to activate and cultivate some of that awareness. The other thing that I kind of want to myth bust is that giving is not competitive, both in terms of giving actions and days of giving. We often hear from nonprofits the concern that Giving Tuesday will compete with other year-end activities that you're running. You might have a giving day that you're focused on that happens maybe earlier in the season, where you're really driving towards end of year giving campaign. We've found that one act of generosity does not cannibalize other acts of generosity. Our data shows that nonprofits who participate in Giving Tuesday raise 5.6 times more after Giving Tuesday through December 31st than those who don't. We also recently have seen some data from our friends at Neon One that released data that showed that 80% of donors that initiate recurring gifts on Giving Tuesday give again before the end of the year. So Giving Tuesday donors, they're generous. You want to capture them and make sure that you're engaging them on that day. During events like Giving Tuesday, when people have more opportunities to give, also they do. So if they have more opportunities to express their generosity, they take advantage of that. So our data shows that during Giving Tuesday in 2023, 32% of people took part in multiple ways, giving a combination of time, money, and goods. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is we hear so much about donor fatigue, and we're all, I think, rightly so, very worried about asking our donors too much. And we have data that shows that this is not necessarily a reality. So when we ask, we get a response. The reality is that many potential donors do not recall being asked to give recently, and nonprofits, I think, are really missing this really valuable opportunity to connect with them. On the next slide, I can just hit this point home a little bit. We run a regular survey called Giving Pulse. It asks people how they give their time, their energy, their money. And data from 2023 revealed that around half of donors, so 55% in the first 3 quarters of the year and 47% in the fourth, do not remember being solicited for donations. I think even more striking, an estimated 9% of those who hadn't been asked would have given if they'd been asked. This means there's a pretty substantial untapped pool of potential donors waiting for an invitation to contribute to your cause. In particular, I want to call out younger people, particularly those under 30, are especially overlooked from our data. They are asked less frequently for donations, and despite showing a clear interest and intent in giving, this age group is more socially conscious. They're more digitally savvy, so they're looking for easy ways to contribute and donate. So the TLDR, try focusing on engaging a new or sort of untapped group of potential donors or promoting a particular program. providing those multiple entry points to engage. And then the last opportunity I want to hit before I turn it over to Pat is reinforcing this point, I think, even more. From our data last year, Giving Tuesday was the biggest day for new donors. So use this to capture and retain them. If you're a nonprofit marketer, which I'm seeing that, some of us are in the chat, you're likely constantly thinking about driving potential customers, your donors, through an awareness to interest to engagement trajectory, right? We want to see these folks move on that trajectory. And generating awareness is the most expensive thing and difficult thing to do. Giving Tuesday provides this sort of like collective generated awareness that many, and this opportunity for free, right? So those who ask on Giving Tuesday have the opportunity to really focus on what drives interest and engagement. So my two opportunities and asks of you are to ask and to engage. Over to Pat to talk about some opportunities with crypto.
No, I love that. I'm taking notes as we talk about this stuff too, because there's just a couple things you're saying that like really resonate. I want to hit on like later on in the conversations around the donor fatigue piece, and then the increase in giving that we see toward the end of the year, because we see even more of that with crypto stock and DApp, like that 5.6x increase, like viewing it as kind of a kickoff for a conversation, getting them to a consideration stage, nurturing them through the month of December when there's that like tax deadline for asset giving, versus the nonprofits who like try to get it all on one day, like with a Giving Tuesday or Crypto Giving Tuesday. It's a really important note. People who kind of view it as a launch point.
Yeah.
On the crypto side of the house, so 2024 so far, knock on wood, has been a really good year for cryptocurrency. So for the markets, it's the highest the market cap has ever been. Bitcoin today, again, hit a new all-time high. We're getting really close to $100,000 per Bitcoin right now, which is something I didn't think I'd be saying for a while. And 2024, we're on track to have this be the best crypto fundraising year ever. So we're back to having $1 million days, where $1 million plus donated in a single day to nonprofits. We had 600, I believe, different charity recipients over the last week who got crypto donations. So the booming markets are really leading to a lot more giving. And we've had about half of the years that we've been in business, a little over half of our total donation volume comes the last 6 weeks of the year, more than the other 10 and a half months combined, which is pretty staggering. So in a bull market year like this, we don't think that that's untenable, which would make this a 9-figure donation year just for crypto donations alone, outside of any of the stock or donor advised fund giving that we're seeing. Next slide. I think it's back to you, Kelsey.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the opportunities. We are less than 2 weeks away. So if you haven't really figured out what you're going to do on Giving Tuesday, or maybe you've started to make a plan and you need to sort of pull it all together, now is our moment. So curious in the chat, who has Giving Tuesday goals established already? Just share in the chat. While you do that, I'm just going to share a few tips if you don't. And I think this is helpful even if you do. So define a single goal for Giving Tuesday. I choose one realistic goal, focus on either a dollar amount or new donor acquisition target, specific project funding, make it achievable, measurable. If you're running a full campaign during giving season, pick an aspect of this campaign to target and achieve. I also really encourage folks that, if you've been wanting to test something new or creative or measure a new thing inside of your organization, Giving Tuesday is a really good opportunity to do that, to test that new thing. I also think it's really helpful to sort of break down that goal for your audience. So if you're raising $5,000, explain what that will accomplish. It also doesn't have to be broken down necessarily as like a monetary goal. Your goal could be to rescue 5 horses. Break that down for your audience throughout the day. X amount will get us to rescuing 1 horse. show photos of that horse, talk about that horse, give updates on that horse. And then as you progress throughout the day and raise more money, you can really demonstrate, the impact you saved these 5 horses, and make sure that you're creating content and inspiring examples that are sort of easy to communicate, connect those goals to your overall story and your narrative throughout the day. Over to you, Pat, to talk a little bit about, I think, setting up your giving page.
Yeah, so this is huge. So this is for giving pages. It's also for giving options. So starting just from the website perspective, you can go to a lot of nonprofit sites. And outside of like the donate button where you're giving with a credit card, where for most nonprofits, the average gift size is somewhere around maybe 100, 200 bucks per year for an online gift. Very difficult for donors to find the other giving options, in particular on mobile, which is where for a lot of nonprofits, they're getting a majority, if not a large percentage of their traffic. Super important if you're a nonprofit who hasn't done this to get kind of a secret shopper to go onto your website and see if they could find the ways that they can give you money. For us, this is uniquely important just because we do crypto stock DAF, where the average gift sizes are often floating around $10,000 per transfer. For DAFs, sometimes for the big nonprofits, you see 6-figure average donations out of that revenue channel. So first and foremost, easy to find. This is where like the lexicon becomes really important. You can go to different nonprofit sites and you'll see things like ways to get involved or the ways to give menu being kind of buried in a separate menu item, the menu being kind of lost from the mobile view. Or it's one of those things where you go to a donation page and you kind of have to scroll through a number of sections or navigate to a separate microsite to find these giving options. So first and foremost, you go on mobile, you go on desktop. If you're looking to give money, that ways to give menu is really easy to find from your donate page and really easy to find in your main navigation. You can see on the website here that it's really easy to click on ways to give and find things like crypto, stock, donor advised funds. This also applies to if someone wants to send you a check or even some other modern cash alternatives that maybe you don't have integrated. Second piece is easy to care. For these landing pages, when you think about a Giving Tuesday type opportunity, we run Crypto Giving Tuesday, the sub campaign. What you would hope for is a lot of donors who are being introduced to you by other people or who are bumping into your content for the first time. So if you're running a campaign, they're clicking on a link, they're going to your donate page. You want to have the flexibility for some of these giving options to educate the donors a little bit. One, in terms of what you're trying to do, if you have a mission, a particular fundraising goal, and then 2, on the donation method itself. You want to make them care about giving that way. There's lots of people that give what we call high five donations when it comes to cryptocurrency. So they go to your site, they see you take Bitcoin, they say that's awesome, they give you $5 and they keep it moving. That's not like a tax optimized offset donation. It's an indicator, definitely worth following up for stewardship. But that generally comes from these web pages we see where there's a donate crypto option embedded in your donation page, or it's sitting somewhere on a page as an option, but there's no education around the tax incentives. There's no education around the fact that they save more money giving this way than with alternatives. If you have a match or something going on, they don't see that on the landing page. Maybe the particular piece of content you posted on LinkedIn didn't include that information. The more you can include on the landing page itself, that makes it easy for the donor to care. We've got this giving option. Here's how it works. If you decide to use it, you can give in a few clicks. There's all these crazy, powerful tax incentives, and we're actually matching these gifts today. That's the sort of thing that helps with conversion even further. And then finally, making it easy to use. So for crypto, most nonprofits who take this stuff because the advent of cryptocurrency came a bit later in the cycle. Most of the products make it pretty easy, unless you have something like a wallet or an exchange account. You've probably got a donation form. They can give it a few clicks. If you're not doing that with stock or DAF, regardless of if you do this with the Giving Block, any other platform is fine for this too, as long as it's an upgrade. Make sure that you're not taking stocks through just like a brokerage where they have to click 5 different buttons and email a major gifts officer and receive a PDF and forward it to an advisor. Donors under 50 don't convert on that. You can imagine if you took away your donate button and instead you had a PDF where they could type in their credit card details and email it to your major gifts officer how much money your nonprofit would make per year. It'd probably be significantly less. We see the same thing with stock. And then of course with DAF, if you're sending them off of your site for donor advised funds, and then log into a separate interface, leave your donor journey entirely and just hope that they push send from somewhere else, the conversion rate is significantly lower and you lose the opportunity to steward that donor by getting their details. So easy to find, easy to care, easy to use. This is for the stuff that we offer as a platform. It's also for every other giving option that you guys have that has nothing to do with us.
Great. I love that. That transitions very nicely into how some tips for preparing digital content. The first is crafting sort of short, personalized, impact-focused content. I recommend that, you've decided your goal, make sure that you are driving and making sure you're delivering and building your email content, your social content, any other content that you're delivering across your different channels. You're delivering that message and you're making sure that you're explicitly sharing your goal. And most importantly, on the stuff that Pat just shared, make sure that all of that content is driving towards the platform and the mechanism that's going to make that giving and that gift very easy. So if it's that donation page, that it's there across all of the different channels that you're creating, and that you want folks to utilize so that it's easy, it's user-friendly. Folks don't have to go searching in multiple different places. See that you mentioned something in email and not being able to find it if they're later on social. The other thing that we see work really well is adding that sense of urgency. I talked a lot about data about why Giving Tuesday is so successful. Remind your community that Giving Tuesday, it's one day. It happens one day, and their donation can make a big difference, especially if you have things like matching gifts, or a goal that you're trying to achieve. From our data, we know that urgency works and it drives action. So create that inside of your messaging. The other thing I want to call out is that while we might be very familiar with Giving Tuesday, we know it's happening on December 3rd. Other folks have a lot of other messages that are coming at them right now. Black Friday is coming up, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving. We have a lot of important dates on the calendar in the next couple of weeks. So give them a countdown clock. Tomorrow, post on your social or in your email, let them know that Giving Tuesday is coming, let them know what you're planning, and let them know, maybe give them an early teaser on how they can activate and be part of that. Your supporters are busy. They're getting those messages kind of everywhere and all over the place right now. So remind people when it's coming and make sure that they're ready and prepared to activate. And then the third is use engaging visuals. If it's less than 2 weeks away, so if you don't have time to create brand new images or any sort of social creative, reuse stuff that you've used before. If you had a post do really well or an image do really well in the last couple of months, reuse that, rethink it. You can use on Canva, Giving Tuesday has templates that you can utilize. I'll share that link in the chat. But we have different Canva templates that you can just grab and build and put your own branding and your own images into. Those are really easy to use, especially if you don't have a ton of time. And I also, if you're like, you know what, I have no time to prep any social ahead of Giving Tuesday, use video throughout the day, give updates during the day. I just encourage you to schedule that time in your calendar now, because you will forget, something will come up and you won't have that time to hop on, make a video and talk about the campaign progress. So schedule that preemptively and just know that, okay, at 10 a.m. on Giving Tuesday, I'm going to record a 30-second video, give an update, talk about the campaign, and post it on my social. And I have that in my calendar. I know I'm going to do it. So just a few sort of quick tips. I also shared an image of a campaign that I really love. I feel like it hits all of these points. It is creative. It is simple. It adds this sense of urgency. They're asking people to give a damn on Giving Tuesday. And it has a fun sort of cute image that, animals always spark the interest. But those are sort of my quick tips on preparing digital.
I love it. I want to just double click on the urgency piece. We use it with crypto, but it works with every donation method. And I think, I mean, it ties back into what you're saying too about like seeing more giving after Giving Tuesday and also potentially seeing more giving before Giving Tuesday. I know that wasn't in the data set, but I'm sure that's true too for the orgs that do it. Like Kelsey's saying, when you're educating your audience and the fact that it's coming, like we do this, our toolkit and the templates are like, it's a week away, it's a day away, kind of back them into the fact that it's coming. So you don't try to get, for something like crypto and stock donations in particular, try to trigger a tax efficient donation method that maybe the donor isn't used to transferring all at once on the same day, right? Like help them get primed and get ready to give something that's unique. Educating on Giving Tuesday in general is really powerful. And then another thing that you can do, which ties in with the like the urgency and timing component, is you can message corporate partners and major gift type donors in advance of it to give earlier and build a match pool. So you turn it into multiple giving options that way. You're like, we're trying to put together this money that we'll use to raise money instead of loading them all up into Giving Tuesday, where you probably set smaller goals. You're looking for not necessarily micro donations, but smaller contributions, kind of growing the number of donors who participate and bringing more people into the net. You can build a $10, $20, $50,000 match pool from some of those other donors in advance of it, and then recycle that as an opportunity to then create urgency on the day of and drive more giving in. So it just gives you kind of multiple bites of the apple with different types of donors. To Kelsey's point about not just putting all of the energy into one day and missing out on the lead up or the time after. Next slide. So engaging your most supportive donors. This is a perfect segue. So this is not only on the day of, like we said, it's in the lead up to build that match pool, and also not even directly associated with it. Something that we strongly recommend, the nonprofits, you can do this year round as well. But when you get major donations, we always ask donors when they give directly through the Giving block, like our platform, we have a private donor services arm where donors kind of come to us looking for a charity to give to and then give through there. We'll ask those donors, can we use your gift as a match for this nonprofit? You've got a charity who's maybe getting crypto for the first time. They get $50,000 from a first-time donor. They get it in Bitcoin. We just ask the donor, can they use this to match the next 50 grand they raise in other crypto donations? We've never had a donor say no. And when I was working at a nonprofit, we do the same thing. Oftentimes, if you get a sizable donation, we just ask, can we use this as a match? Donors will almost always say yes, and you get to use that donation to inspire others to give. And it's like one of the best urgency drivers. So in your communications to donors, you can request. Oh, I see a question to explain the match. So usually what'll happen is a nonprofit will have a match. If we raise $10,000, we'll match those dollar for dollar. So every $10,000 we raise, it'll actually count as $20,000 toward the charity. And there's a corporate partner, a board member, a donor who's sponsoring that match, generally speaking. Nonprofits do this kind of proactively, trying to build a match, but you can also just ask the donor if a gift they're already going to give anyway can just be a guaranteed match. So all that means is you're going to give us $10,000 regardless. Can we use this to raise money from other donors? You go out, you try to raise 10K with the 10,000 the donor was giving you anyway, but it's guaranteed, right? So if you only raise 5,000 with it, it's not like you don't get the full 10K from your donor. You just want to be able to use that gift as an incentive. So if someone gives one of our charities $100,000 in Bitcoin, we ask, can we use this as a match? The donor will say yes, and then that charity can go on online and via email message the donors they think would like to give crypto and say the next $100,000 are matched. Now, regardless of if they raise that amount, they get the 100,000 still. That's something you're getting in your account regardless. But you get to recycle it as this incentive, and it tends to be one of the biggest urgency drivers. Next, consider your donor audience. So personalizing your communications. There's two things that are really important with this when it comes to crypto, stock, and DAF. One is not personalizing it when it's unnecessary. And by that, I mean segmenting by donation type. It can be more work to try to find crypto donors in your audience, stock donors in your audience, DAF donors in your audience, and send them all separate communications versus taking the first step, which is equally powerful, of sending, let's say, that capital campaign email you're sending out to your high value donors and just having a snippet at the bottom that says, we take all these other smart ways to give, right? That other ways to give button where it goes, we take crypto, we take stock, we take DAF, whatever it is you've got. That is one of these really tax efficient asset-based giving methods, we take all this stuff. You can click here and give one of those. That helps you cut through that personalization and segmentation. On the other hand, if you have something like what we're seeing now, where cryptocurrency is really having, a moment and the prices are tearing upward, it can make sense to segment your audience by the younger, high net worth donors and major gift type prospects, and get a message out and say, hey, we see cryptocurrencies hitting all-time highs. We want to remind you all we take this stuff, right? And now might be a really good time to consider giving this donation because you have a uniquely high tax incentive to send those transfers now. Here's where you can talk to our team. So just reminding nonprofits, you don't have to run a crypto campaign to raise cryptocurrency in the same way that we talk about fitting Giving Tuesday into your campaigns in general. Like Kelsey mentioned at the beginning, it shouldn't be disruptive. Same thing is true with donation methods. The first thing you want to do is layer cryptocurrency into your existing strong fundraising appeals in the same way you would layer Giving Tuesday into your end of year timeline. And then finally, activate board members and volunteers. Really powerful moments. Again, my strongest recommendation would be to do that in advance of Giving Tuesday. If they have a really strong public presence, it could be better rather than asking them for their money. In advance of the day to pull together a match pool, you could ask them to be highly engaged and reshare content or pull their audiences in. But if they're more of kind of a financial value to the organization, then I really like engaging the board and their peers to put together a match pool in advance of it, rather than asking them to give on the day. I find that you tend to raise a bit more than when it's lost in the noise. And I think that the added value of having a match on the day of is super powerful. Next slide.
Super helpful, Pat. All of those suggestions I think are spot on. I already talked to a good amount of this, and I also want to get to, we have like a bunch of good questions. So I'm going to breeze over this, keep donors engaged throughout the day, and just hit the sort of like really quick points here. So I already talked about going multi-channel. Your donors are spread across multiple platforms. Some of them are reading your emails, maybe they don't follow you on social. And so you want to make sure that you're hitting the many different channels that you utilize with those same messages, like I said. You also want to update on all of those channels as much as you can as well. So make sure that you're giving those updates on how close you are to that match or how close you are to hitting that goal throughout the day on multiple channels as much as you possibly can. Post those progress updates. So if you in the morning, you let your supporters know what your goal is, give them an update throughout the day. If it's not going well, that'll create that sense of urgency. You want to let them know, we still have this far to go. We need your help in order to get it done. If your campaign is kicking off and it's, going gangbusters, you can also make it bigger, right? You can make a decision, you can post an update, say, we're going to raise, now our goal is we're going to raise X times this. We want to raise X times this. Help us do that. Share this with a friend and help us hit that goal. The other thing that I think is really important, kind of building off of that, engaging your supporters, is shouting out your donors publicly. We love to get congratulated and we love to feel like we're making a difference and that we are, we're appreciated. And so the more you can thank your donors and make them feel a little special, the better. So plan throughout your day in your social content, your digital content, an opportunity to thank folks. Maybe provide them a special incentive as well. And just a simple rule of thumb, again, if you are strapped for time and you haven't really started planning for Giving Tuesday, just post 3 times during the day and share 3 times during the day. Morning, a midday update, and an evening push. And then I think Pat's about to talk about making sure you give your thanks, but during the day, at least 3 times during that day, and hopefully you'll see some additional momentum. Next slide.
Awesome. Yeah, and then of course, thanking the donors. So depending on the type of fundraiser you're doing, right, the approach is very different, of course. If the Giving Tuesday campaign is sort of the end of a capital campaign period with a sizable goal, then the approach to kind of push for more wouldn't be there, of course. Depending on what your goals are, though, like I see a bunch of nonprofits posting this in the chat. It's a pretty universal experience for Giving Tuesday and Crypto Giving Tuesday, depending on the nonprofit size. But if you set a really sizable financial goal, rather than looking at a combination of things like increasing your reach, trying to generate net new donor participation, trying to inspire a large number of donors to give in smaller amounts, different nonprofits look for different approaches and end up sometimes feeling a bit disappointed if they think this will be like the one day where all the money comes in. This is where the stewardship really comes into play. So for crypto donations in particular, we get a lot of what we call high five donations on Crypto Giving Tuesday, which is where we see what we described earlier, a donor who gives $1, $5, $100 in Bitcoin or Ethereum or one of these top cryptocurrencies. And because of credit cards, we're used to thinking of that as kind of an indicator of the donor's giving capacity, when in reality, it's probably just a convenient way to acknowledge the fact that you're taking it, say that they find it exciting. And it's really kind of a door to open up into stewardship. So the one thing I'll say on the follow-ups and the thank yous, the first note shouldn't be, hey, thanks for your donation. Give us more now, please. But as a part of that thank you and that follow-up process, if you get a lot of really small one-time donors, in particular, if they're giving things like a small DAF transfer, a small stock transfer, a small crypto transfer, there's a massive stewardship opportunity. It's usually high-value donors who are giving using these types. They tend to have more invested. And if it's a small donation, then it's not a tax consideration donation. They still might have more in the bank for that tax offset. It's where that stewardship comes in, where it's like, do you have cryptocurrency or stocks that are highly appreciated? Do you have income or gains that are uniquely high this year that you need to offset? Are you looking to make more major contributions throughout the year? And if so, we've got people you can talk to that can help you explore those opportunities. A lot of the big donations we see come after Giving Tuesday, where the donors are thanked, stewarded, and then eventually you're talking to them and sometimes their financial advisors to court what is ultimately a significantly larger gift. So any level of participation should be thanked, rewarded, and then followed up with. And then, of course, sharing the impact publicly is another social proof, in addition to reporting updates. By thanking a donor or by thanking a partner, in addition to making that individual donor feel good, it's like one of the best ways to actually encourage other people to participate. And then inviting people to stay connected and potentially connect you to others. You want people to continue to follow along more than you want that one-time gift. Next slide.
Okay, so let's continue this energy. I mean, I think we've been hitting a lot of the ways in which you can carry the momentum from Giving Tuesday into the end of giving season. I already mentioned this, but Giving Tuesday donors are some of the most generous, right? And it's not because necessarily they're giving their biggest gift on Giving Tuesday, like Pat said. They are seeing an opportunity to get engaged in this movement and this moment. And I think the biggest mistake we could make is not reactivating or re-engaging these donors, thanking them, stewarding them, and then providing them additional opportunities to give and make an impact to your organization. So make a plan for how you are going to engage your Giving Tuesday donors throughout the rest of the year now, so that you don't lose them if you're running this year-end campaign before the end of the year. So quick tips: celebrate, share the impact, make sure that you're talking about what happened on Giving Tuesday. And if you're putting this into a larger campaign, talk about how the momentum from Giving Tuesday can be carried out through the rest of the year, how their contributions are being put to use, any success stories. If you're capturing things throughout the day, photos, images, videos, make sure you're sharing them in the days after Giving Tuesday. Consider extending or launching new challenges after Giving Tuesday. I think sometimes we lay it all out on the line. I know I said to get folks prepared, let them know what's coming up, but sometimes having a little secret in your back pocket, something that you can launch after Giving Tuesday, is another great way to get folks excited and engaged. So the day after Giving Tuesday, say thanks, and then say, hey, surprise, we're also doing this, and there's this opportunity to participate and show show the impact that that could have in the day after. And on the same channels that you've been using for your Giving Tuesday campaigns, make sure that you're giving those impact updates, providing those additional opportunities, keep your donors excited and engaged, really steward them throughout the rest of giving season. And Pat, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about year-end giving and tax benefits, especially around non-cash assets, but I think you've done a good amount of that already. But if you want to hit any of those points home before we take some questions.
Yeah, I'll hit it super fast just because I feel like I kind of skirt past the point of it sometimes. For any donor who has any investment that's gone up at all, that they've been holding for over a year, there are significant tax incentives to give that instead of any cash alternative. They save more than if they gave with a credit card, with cash, ACH, a check, etc. The more it's gone up and the larger the gift size, the more significant those benefits are. So like an example being, if a donor who gave $100,000, let's say in Bitcoin today, if their average purchase price, I mean, just from experience, was something like $22,000, like they would be giving something in the range of $15,000 more to the charity, and saving something in the range of $15,000 additionally on their taxes. The math is wild. So the more things have appreciated, so in a particular year like this, where crypto has gone up quite a lot, and there are a lot of stocks out there, like major stocks, you can think, Nvidia and Palantir and some of these that have gone up quite a bit. There are massive tax incentives for donors to give that. So anytime a donor is giving any significant donation using cash, there should be a tax conversation with them around assets. Not only because you could increase the gift size significantly, but moving them to these asset donations creates a sense of urgency every time prices go up. And then at the end of every calendar year, in a way where their cash is always worth the same thing, right? They can walk into any store and spend $100,000, it's worth $100,000. If they have $100,000 in Bitcoin, it's worth 80 something thousand dollars probably if they spend it anywhere else, because that would trigger a taxable event. So the only place you can spend appreciated assets and not pay taxes as a US citizen is in donating them to a charity. The charity doesn't pay taxes, you don't. So the bigger the gift, the more sizable that becomes. So tons of money out there in promoting these giving options. You can increase the average gift size and still save the donor money.
Should we get into some
All right.
questions?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll pull up the Q&A.
We've got
Let's
a lot
see.
of ones here.
Yeah, really good ones. I'll read off Sandy's. I think it's best for you, Kelsey. It's, how do I make sure we're set up for the campaign? We did it 2 years ago, but couldn't last.
Yeah, I'm curious about this question and where you're setting up your campaign. So I think a common misconception is that you have to set up a campaign through Giving Tuesday. That is not the case. You can set up a Giving Tuesday campaign anywhere that you're already set up to receive donations. You can set it up through Giving Block. You can set up your Giving Tuesday campaign anywhere. I'm not sure if you're maybe referring to Facebook or Meta has done matches in the past. You might be referring to that. I know some folks have had issues with that in the past, but so let me know a little bit more, Sandy, maybe in the chat where you are talking about, but you don't have to set up a campaign through Giving Tuesday. Set it up on the platforms where you are already established, and make it streamlined and easy for your donors. So if they're used to giving in a specific place, make sure that you're creating those campaigns in that place. Next question over to you, Pat. Priya, I think that you touched on this a good amount, but anything you want to add on how crypto donations work? How does that convert to actual dollar money that's needed for the day-to-day survival of their nonprofit?
No, it's an important question. So for the charity, like, what does crypto acceptance look like? So directly we work with about 2,000 nonprofits currently, and then through integrations, somewhere between 10 and 20. And a lot of nonprofits think that means all of these nonprofits are holding cryptocurrency or investing in cryptocurrency or doing something technical. In reality, what it looks like for the charity is a copy and paste donation form. So the gift acceptance is all happening on the back end. It's a form that a donor can click a few buttons. If we have time, I can pull one up. But it looks just like a credit card donation form. The donor clicks which crypto they want to give. They enter the amount they want to give. It presents the donor with a generated wallet address, and then they send their crypto there. Once the crypto is sent, it is instantaneously sold for the US dollar value, and the charity gets those US dollars pushed to their bank account. So nonprofit gets a cash acceptance experience, the donor gets a crypto giving experience, but that direct transfer allows for the donor to not trigger a taxable event because they've moved the assets themselves to the charity rather than selling the crypto themselves and donating it. If the donor were to sell their crypto and then donate it, they would owe all the taxes. So again, if it's a $100,000 Bitcoin donation, that could cost the donor, $116,000 to make that gift. It becomes really prohibitive when the alternative would be an extra $15,000-ish in write-off that they get by not having to eat the taxes. So you as a nonprofit are getting a copy and paste donation form. Everything else is automated. Really, really good question. Next one we have, does anyone have strategies for incorporating Giving Tuesday into an end of year campaign that has already been initiated? This is great. I'll kick it to you, Kelsey.
Yeah, I actually would love to see folks in the chat if they want to share how they might be doing that too. But I think a really easy way to do this is just to break off a piece of whatever that larger campaign is, right? So if you're raising $100,000 by the end of the year, break off a piece of that, whatever you think might be attainable for your organization. Let's say $10,000 on Giving Tuesday, maybe $50,000 on Giving Tuesday. You can start low, like that $10,000 amount, right? In that overall $100,000. And then, like I said, throughout the day, if you hit that really early on in the day, you can keep extending that. Maybe you raise that full $100,000 in Giving Tuesday alone, and then you can set your target for your end of year campaign to be even bigger. So I would suggest either like identifying an audience that you would want to specifically hit. That's another thing that we've seen work really well for nonprofits on Giving Tuesday. If they're trying to reach new donors, they are setting up their Giving Tuesday specifically for acquiring new donors. Or if they're trying to reach young people on Giving Tuesday, they're specifically designing their Giving Tuesday campaign inside of their larger campaign for that specific audience.
No, it's a great rundown.
Pat?
No, it's a great rundown. It also it leads into I think it's Priya's next question, talking about how they don't raise as much on Giving Tuesday as their other annual fundraiser, so maybe they should deprioritize one and prioritize the other. Depending on the timing of everything else you have going on, you can make them complementary in a way that I think is super useful. So you could, again, like in the lead up to something like Giving Tuesday, pull together a match pool. You could raise money on the day of from folks. And then like, let's say you have something like a gala or a major fundraising event that's in person toward the end of the year. You can queue that up to be incentivized and connected, right? I've seen nonprofits do things like the top fundraisers from a peer-to-peer standpoint on Giving Tuesday, get invited and they have their own table at the gala. And you can use that as this kind of decentralized way of getting existing donors to go out there and bring new people into the orbit. And then you can steward the donors who were brought in by those other existing donors to try to buy gala tickets as well, right? And participate. Those sorts of things where you can connect the dots between one day and the other and not make the fundraising the same and stretch it across different audiences. You don't, if you're running two very similar campaigns, let's say, and they're very close together, they're both kind of digital online campaigns happening in the month of December, and one's working, one isn't, then yes, I would definitely deprioritize Giving Tuesday and prioritize yours. Or I think the better approach, if you can do it, is just convert your Giving Tuesday campaign to look and feel different and engage a different demographic. So you can make it a bit more complementary.
Building on that, Priya's next question was about building a different audience. And if you have a really successful giving day, it looked like you mentioned in April, and you're thinking about how to engage on Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is that great opportunity to engage this new audience. I gave a lot of that data at the top around, Giving Tuesday is a free awareness day for a lot of nonprofits, right? And people are finding out about Giving Tuesday, they're hearing about it, they're seeing it. And so positioning your organization to meet this new audience and speak to this new audience is a really good opportunity to build it. I would be curious what sort of work you do, because I think that would be sort of like individualized on some additional strategies that I would share. But make sure the content that you're building speaks to this new audience that you're trying to build, right? I'm not sure what your mission is, but if you're only designing content to meet this specific audience that you've been able to cultivate really well, that's great. If you're trying to build this new audience, I would do a little research into, what might speak to that audience a little bit more, and use Giving Tuesday to really sort of maximize reaching them.
Okay. I mean, just an earlier thing in the chat also, like on the goal setting and how to set a proper goal. It also comes down to timing. A lot of I do think it's important, at least internally, to have goals outside of fundraising outcomes too,
Yep.
especially for smaller and mid-sized nonprofits. It doesn't make sense in our area of work in particular. It uniquely doesn't make sense to try to push people to give on a particular day. In the same way that it does to balance it out in terms of awareness and driving attention and tapping into what is a heightened moment for everyone's content kind of getting circulated, right? There's hashtags and things happening. People are thinking about giving. Trying to bend it to that, I think, is a better idea. If you keep trying to set a really ambitious goal and not getting there, and it kind of leaves you feeling flat, I do think it's fine to reduce the goal size significantly and then try to just focus on different types of goals. Can we make our content more spreadable this time? Can we tell better stories? Can we drive some engagement? Can we ask people in our community to maybe share stories on this day rather than donate, and see if we can get some value out of that? Like, experiment with different approaches. For some nonprofits, like larger nonprofits in particular, having a unique day where it's just another reason to give, and you've got a really big audience, 2 million followers on X or on Facebook, and you can spread it real fast. The calculations are different. So I would just experiment with, like, can you improve reach? Can you improve connectivity? Can you get net new donors? Can you get existing donors to build you a match pool? All of those good things that are, a little different than just trying to hit one particular fundraising outcome.
I want to add to that. I know we are over time, but I just want to add to that. We haven't really talked a lot about volunteers. But you can also think about Giving Tuesday being a day that you are activating your volunteer network or running a big volunteer activation. I didn't share any of this data before, but we have data that shows that volunteers sort of during our quieter months, like our January and February or into the new year, volunteers show up and give in many different ways. So they're like holding down the fort, showing up and giving money in times when other donors are not. So they're a really good base of support in not just volunteering for your organization year round. And so activating a volunteer campaign or a volunteering goal on Giving Tuesday is a really good way if you're feeling like you're over tapping your audience with donation asks to get folks engaged in your organization that can then potentially be supporters year round.
I love that. Volunteers get underused.
Yes.
On Giving Tuesday and beyond.
Yes.
Also, just a quick last thing on the volunteers piece, like asking them to educate you or connect you with people. Younger donors in particular love that. Like, I can't tell you how many nonprofits get ahead in crypto by putting those sorts of feelers out. Like, we just started taking cryptocurrency, like, who's into this stuff? Help us, and you get these kind of like even people who are still in college, right, who can become kind of like a crypto ambassador for you. And they love the fact that they can educate and help you create content and write a blog post and connect you with their friends or what channels these people are on. All of that stuff is useful. So I agree. Just getting the volunteer network going, and with younger donors in particular, inspiring them to do a bit more can be super valuable. I know we're at time. I want to thank you, Kelsey, for doing this with me.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
then yeah, thank you. And the QR code's on the screen because we didn't explain to everybody. If you're not taking crypto stock or DAF, and a few clicks on your site, please scan that QR code for the Giving Block. We're donating $500 in Bitcoin to every nonprofit who signs up between now and the end of the month. So have a call with our team, at least get educated on the product. And then the other QR code takes you to Giving Tuesday. We've also dropped in the chat, which I'll drop again further down, a Canva collection. I guess I'll use Kelsey's. She's got an updated one with
Yeah.
designs. And thank you all for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. Really great questions, really engaging conversation. And I hope everyone has a really good Giving Tuesday and a great giving season.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.